I'm going to show you how to build a slab box construction. If you have not already rolled out your slabs, you're going to need blue bumpers for a thin slab, a rolling pin, and some cloth, and some kind of cutting tool. You need to grab a template. I used a template for the B-box, so I have the littler square and the rectangle and the B-box flange template. You're going to roll out your slabs and then cut out 4 sides, a lid, and a bottom. So for this particular box, I needed 4 long sides, 1 small square for my bottom and 1 small square for my lid, and then 1 flange. So you should have 7 pieces cut out by the end to complete a box. First step I want to do is get my lid out of the way. I want it to dry up enough so that I can pick it up and it's not flopping over. I'm getting close to leather hard now, but it's still a little movable. I want to add my flange to my lid. I'm going to use the scratch and attach method. So now that it's dried up a little bit, I really want to make sure I'm digging in and getting a lot of water on this because it's not fresh clay anymore. I've rolled out my slabs. I've either let them sit out for a little while or I use the heat gun to firm them up a little bit. You don't want fresh slabs. You want them to have stiffened up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to center my flange onto my lid and push firm but gentle pressure. I want to see some air bubbles come out, some water come out, so I know that I actually scratched and attached it on there. And I can either go in here now and start rounding these corners off, because remember, clay doesn't like sharp corners. It'll chip, and glaze doesn't adhere to sharp corners. So I can use a piece of plastic or a sponge or just my finger because it's getting leather hard now, so I can use that, and I'm just rounding off my edges. Your lid does not need a knob in this project. You can add one if you like. If not, your lid is pretty much done other than the slip for the Sgraffito. If you're not sure you got it on there well, I like to use the end of one of these tools and tack on a couple spots so that I know my lid's staying attached. I don't want to seal the whole thing around though because I don't want to trap air. So I'm going to pick a couple spots, these 2 sides, and tack that on. And then go in there either with a sponge or with my finger and smooth those out so they look nice. So I have my flat lid with my flange attached. That's going to help my lid from sliding off. I can put that aside. That piece is pretty much close to done. The next piece I want to grab is my bottom piece. So if you're using the cube, it's going to be the bigger square. If you're doing box C, it's the long box. You'll have a rectangle. This is box B, so I'm using this one. This is my bottom. My base is going to have a 45-degree angle on each side. So I'm going to take my needle tool or a knife. I like using this knife. I'm going to hold it up perpendicular to the table. So that means it's a 90-degree angle. I'm going to twist it to a 45. So 45-degree angle is in the middle of a 90-degree angle. So this is 90 degrees. 0 is the table. This is 45. I'm supporting it with my thumb down here, and I'm putting the point of the blade right at the corner of the box. It's holding it at a 45 and slicing down. If you look at your scrap, if it's triangular shaped, then you've got a good 45. Now I'm going to go all the way around and do that to each side, just for the bottom. So establish my 45-degree angle, support my thumb, and cut. If you're worried about it not being perfect, it is okay. It's clay, it'll move around on you. The thing is, you don't want to cut a lot off. You want this point of the blade to be at the edge so that when you do cut it off, you do get that. I'll show you a nice triangle that comes off of there. All right, so this was my bottom piece. This is the only piece that is going to have all edges with a 45-degree angle. I'm taking my sides now. These pieces only need a 45 on the sides and the bottom. I'm leaving the top flat so it sits flush with the lid. So my side pieces, same thing, 45-degree angle on 3 sides. Do not do 4 sides, you'll have to roll out another slab. All right, So this is my side piece. It is flat on the top, and I have 3 sides that have a 45-degree angle. The 2 sides and the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing to all of my side pieces. That was a cameo from Mrs. Wilbur, who's walking through my room.
They can't hear that.
They can, because I'm recording the vocal with it, yeah. All right, so all 4 sides. I'm making sure that I'm not doing the top, because then I'll have a weird pointy lip to my piece. And my last side. Now I'm only showing you the construction for box B, but it is literally the same concept for all 3 boxes, no matter which one you do. Okay, so now I have, once again, my lid and my flange, no 45s. All these stay flat. My bottom piece, all 45-degree angles. My 3 sides, make sure the top is flat, and the sides and the bottom have the 45-degree angle. All right, now I'm ready to start building it. I suggest starting with the bottom piece and 1 side. So now I have my 45, this is my bottom piece. I'm going to scratch and attach. The 2 pieces that are going to go together. So now that they're both 45-degree angles, when they meet each other, they will create a 90-degree angle. Like that. Now, if I want a strong box, and I want to be sure that it's not going to fall apart and that it won't have any cracks, I'm going to use an extra piece of clay, a little softer clay than the leather hard. I'm going to make a coil just in my hands. I want this to be skinnier than my finger. I don't want a really thick rope. I just want a small coil that I can do a little scratching in this corner, a little scratching to the coil. I'm going to use this coil to help support the 2 sides I just put on. So I'm going to cut away the extra and smooth this in. Making sure I'm using that firm, gentle pressure. I want to see some water come out, some air, so I know I'm not trapping any air. And I'm making more of a rounded inside to this box by using this coil. That's going to help support it. All right, now that I've attached those 2 45-degree angles, and I slipped and scored a coil on the inside corner, I'm going to add another side of the box. So I usually like to do this facing me, but clearly if I do that, you're not going to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to do it backwards. So I'm going to put this side on, making sure I scratch, slip and score all the sides I'm about to put on. These 2 and the bottom piece. I'm going to seal these on. So those 2 45-degree angles will meet and make a 90-degree angle. All right, so I want to seal that gentle, firm pressure I was talking about. When I do that, I'm sealing these with my 2 fingers. Equal pressure on both sides. I don't always just push from one side, I push from 2 sides. And then I'm going to push along the bottom here because the table is supporting it underneath of my fingers. So pushing these 2 sides down. Now, I like to do this while the box is open. It's a little easier. So I'm going to do the coil method again, where I use a coil to help support those 2 edges. I highly recommend doing this as you go along. It's just going to get more difficult as you build more sides. If you do it all at the end, it's not the end of the world, but like I said, it's a little easier if you just do this now. So that one for the long wall, do a little bit of slipping and scoring. one on the inside right there. And I'm going to support it. So I'm supporting it back here with this thumb, and I'm pushing with this finger here. And I'm not taking as much time as I normally would, but I would take some time and I'd really make sure these are nice and smooth down so I can have a neat inside of my box. So same thing over here. I'm going to add that coil on this side. All right, you're just going to repeat that. You're going to put this side on and then the other side. Make sure you're slipping and scoring and adding a coil to each side. I'm sorry, adding a coil to each seam. Once you have all four sides of your box put on, you can stop there, let it stiffen up a little bit before you add the slip for the Sgraffito. If you want to add handles or you want to add feet to it, you would do it at this point. If you want to add a lid to your handle to your lid, you do it at this point. There's also a couple other things you can do if you want to make sure your box is going to stay together. So especially if you did this shape box and you can't fit your hand all the way inside to smooth out those coils, there's another method called sewing a seam. This method will ensure that your box will stay together and it won't crack in the corners. So if you really want to take this extra step to make sure your piece won't fall apart, especially since you're putting all the work into it in the illustration, you can do this. So I use a loop tool, so either like a circle or triangular, and I carve out the corner of the corner where the two seams come together. So I work on it from the outside. So I carve that piece out. So now I have a groove here, and sometimes you'll see it go through to the inside of the box. That's fine. So I'm going to take that groove, and I'm going to scratch in here, so some slipping and scoring. And then I'm going to add a piece of fresh clay and make another coil. And I want the coil to be about the size of that groove. Using your scrap, it won't be enough clay. You want a little bit extra clay, so you want to roll a separate coil for this part. Alright, and then you want to give this a little bit of scratch, attach, and you want to fit this inside of that groove. So cut it off here. So you want to fit it in there, and you want to use that firm but gentle pressure, and make sure you see some air bubbles coming out, a little bit of water so you know you're not trapping air. And you're going to smooth this piece down into there. This gives your slabs another point of pressure so that if it wants to crack, it has two other places for the pressure to go. So you can be assured that your box will stay together. This is only necessary if you can't reach inside and get to the inside coil, or if you really want to take this extra step to make sure your box does not fall apart when it dries. And if your corners got mangled while you're putting it together, this is also a good way to clean up those corners. So I'm going to just work on this here. You see I still have a lot of extra clay I have to smooth down. So I'll take my time doing that. You notice I'm putting a support on the inside, so my inside hand, my outside hand, so I'm not just pushing against the box. It does take a little bit of time. You want to smooth that out, get that flat as the rest of it. You can use a sponge. You can use different sculpting tools if you think they're more helpful to smooth it out. You just want to get rid of that seam. So that was called sewing a seam. It's when you remove the corner where you could join the two slabs together and you replace it with a coil. This can help your box structurally stay stronger. It can also improve any corners that you mangled putting it together. So now you've constructed your box. Your lid should fit on nice with the flange. This should be wrapped up tight, maybe a little bit of spray so it doesn't dry out. And next time you're going to add the slip so that you can then scratch into it for the Sgraffito part of the project.